Okay, I know I'm late on this week's video. I'm sorry. You can berate me in the comments down below. I will be back on track next week. But what's going on, everybody? My name is Will Tran and welcome back to another video. And we are back talking about the Red again. So I have owned this camera for a couple months and I've done a couple shoots on it and I absolutely love this camera. So I've done a couple of shoots recently with this guy. I just got off of one last week with this and it worked awesome and the footage looks absolutely great. Cue the footage. But I did want to talk more about this camera with you guys. There are 1 to 2 people watching this video right now. One are the minority of people who own a Red camera already and just want to hear what I have to say about it. Or you're 2, part of the majority, and you're watching Red camera videos hoping that you're gonna own one day. Now, if you wanna own a Red camera one day, absolutely keep that feeling in mind. I remember what it was like whenever I was looking at Red cameras and just drooling over them, hoping that one day I can own it. For those of you who are part of the majority, I need to tell you guys something here. It's very easy to drool over these things whenever you're looking at them on a screen and hearing all the great things about them. Yes, don't get me wrong, I love this camera. It is one of my main drivers now, and I love shooting films on Red. I've done quite a couple of shoots with them already, both DSMC2 and DSMC3, but I do think you guys need to understand a couple things before you actually get to the point of purchasing one yourself. But let's talk about all the good things that you've probably heard about before already. One of the main questions a lot of people ask is, why would you want to shoot on a Red? One of the main reasons why you want to shoot on a Red camera is just overall image quality. The image coming out of Red cameras is definitely a step up from the typical DSLRs and mirrorless cameras that you guys are probably used to. And these cameras are also part of the film industry standards, just underneath ARRI. So these things are definitely not designed for the amateur. They are designed for somebody who has a lot of experience in cameras. Not only that, as you all probably know, Red cameras shoot in RAW, meaning you can change data in post-production after you've shot the footage. The last shoot that I was on with this guy, I noticed some of my shots were a little bit overexposed whenever I was in post-production since I was in direct sunlight. So in post-production, I just dropped the ISO a little bit and the image looked perfect. So that is one of the greatest things about Red cameras right here, and just better cinema cameras overall. The more advanced that you get with cameras, the more flexibility you get. Now, for the people who aren't very experienced with Red cameras, you might be saying, oh, well, if the camera shoots in RAW, then that means the files must take up a lot of storage, right? Well, that's also another great thing about Red cameras is that you can actually change the amount of compression that you want on your image. In Red DSMC2 cameras, like this one right here, you control your compression via a ratio from 3:1 all the way up to 22:1. Again, I'm gonna massively simplify this right here for you guys. Say if you have a 10:1 compression ratio, that means you are averaging out the pixel information from 10 pixels down to 1. In DSMC3 bodies, which is the newest generation of Red cameras, they have 3 or 4 settings for you to choose from: LQ, MQ, HQ, sometimes ELQ, meaning extra low quality, medium quality, high quality. And if you saw the last video that I did on the Red camera, that is the reason why I did not go with the DSMC3 body, because I wanted to control my compression ratio down to whatever specific ratio I want, instead of just leaving it up to 4 settings. Now again, if you're watching this video, you've probably heard all the great things about Red cameras already, but now let's move on to the things that not a lot of people want to tell you about whenever it comes to working with these cameras. Much like every piece of gear, Red cameras are far from perfect. I know if you've been looking at Red cameras online for I don't know how long already, how could it possibly not be perfect? But of course, you need to consider these factors before you eventually pull the trigger on one down the road. Something that not a lot of people think about when it comes to these cameras is that these things are not designed for run and gun shoots. You can make them work, but they're just not designed for that. They are designed for film sets that have a lot of people working on them and a whole team to operate these things. They're not designed for run and gun for several reasons. One being the most obvious is the weight of this thing. The body by itself is already fairly heavy, and putting all your accessories on it, it becomes even heavier. So if you want to get gimbal shots, for example, you need to A, get a very strong gimbal, or get a Steadicam, or if you're like Devin Supertramp or Parker Walbeck, you need to muscle 30 pounds on one arm with a glide cam. I have muscled this camera on a glide cam several times before, and I can tell you it's not fun after a while. At least you get a good workout in, right? Not only that though, Red cameras do not have autofocus. Again, like I said, these things are designed for a team to be working on them, like a First AC, to attach a motor and pull the focus for you. So operating this thing by yourself is a little bit of a hassle. Something else about Red cameras right here that not a lot of people talk about, these things have an extremely long startup time. In fact, I'm actually gonna start the camera up right now for you guys to show you guys how long it takes for it to start up. So let's set the timer and here we go. Okay, cool. So I wasn't actually counting in my head, but you guys see the timer, but I'm gonna guess it was roughly 40-ish seconds. So again, they don't start up as quickly as a mirrorless camera like this one where it takes like half a second. These things are designed to be on a set where there's a lot of time to prepare for each shot. And another thing that not a lot of people talk about when it comes to these cameras is that you can't delete individual video files. The only way you can delete files is by formatting the card entirely. In coding and file management, I think that system is called trim, where you can delete a single video file from the card. That does not exist on the Red. You have to completely wipe the card in order to free up space. And here's another thing. If you're working with DSMC2 bodies, these things right here, the Red mini mags, these cards are proprietary when it comes to Red DSMC2 bodies. There's no way around them. There is no redundancy of the camera. You can't use standard SD cards, obviously. You have to be using Red's proprietary mini mags to shoot anything on them. And these things are not cheap. The most you'd probably spend on a standard SD card is probably like $100. Red mini mags, if you look for used ones, you're gonna be spending $300 to $400, if not $1,000 on one of these guys. And personally, I never had an issue with my mini mags, but I have heard plenty of horror stories of these things failing on people. So for cards that are fairly expensive, they are not the most reliable, to say the least. DSMC3 bodies do use CF Express cards, which are less proprietary, considering there are quite a lot of cameras that use CF Express. However, CF Express cards are also not that cheap. And another thing about Red cameras is that they tend to eat batteries like crazy. V-mount batteries are just snacks to these cameras. The last shoot that I was on, I was using a 190 watt Savage battery, and I was probably getting like maybe 2 or 2.5 hours out of it. Granted, I was shooting at 4K 60, but these cameras take down batteries like I take down coffee. Like, I'm telling you, dude. I did have to swap out my batteries quite often, and considering the extremely long startup time, of course, I can't just keep turning it on and off. So if you do end up using a Red for your next shoot, be sure to get lots of batteries. Okay, so those are just a couple of the random things that I think I should talk to you guys about when it comes to this camera. Again, it is a far from perfect camera. Now, despite all of these things, I still love this camera. It still does great. The image quality coming out of it is seriously unparalleled from any of the other cameras I've shot with. Now, that's not to say that other cameras that are cheaper than this one can't stand up to it. Now, much like everybody else who owns a Red camera, we do not recommend any amateur just get a camera like this. You need to earn your stripes with other cameras before you end up pulling the trigger on a camera like this. Because if you don't understand how to use other cameras to their fullest ability, you're not going to be able to use a camera like a Red to its fullest ability. And if you want to learn how to use your camera to its fullest ability, we have our mini cinematography course in the top right corner in the first link in the description below. We cover these 7 fundamentals of cinematic image that every filmmaker needs to know before they hit the record button. And you're gonna get all the knowledge that you need to know to shoot your first short film in just 1 week. And we also just recently added our very own custom light leap pack captured on the Red Raven sensor. And currently it is only available in our mini cinematography course. So check out our mini cinematography course in the top right corner in the first link description below. But other than that, if you have any more questions, please let me know in the comments down below. And if you're new here, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button. I post 1 video a week to this channel and you don't want to miss them. And I will see you in the next video.